about to leave. Already packing, come with me. I'm not.
Hello friends and enemies, welcome back to Happy For Now. I'm here with your Romancelandia Monthly for the month of June. All I have to say is it was almost a calm month and then some stuff happened, which it always feels like it just like compacts into like a couple days. So I'm here to give you your updates for the month. I've got 3 big things. There will be timestamps in that description box for you down below if you're interested in any very specific details. And then we'll talk about something I'm doing next month in the outro a little bit to touch on that, just give you a heads up. And what else? I think that's it right now. Yeah, so let's just dive right into it to, I think, least bad to worst. I don't know, the thing like the 2 things I'm like indifferent on talking about and the 1 thing I like I'm dreading, we'll do it in that order. We'll do the thing I don't want to talk about last. So I don't want to talk about it, it's that I'm just very, very frustrated by it. So first up, let's talk about Heart and Soul by wait, what is the author's name? By Jen Frederick. This is a book I actually have an arc of. I haven't read it yet. It is literally marketed as heart-wrenching yet hopeful romance. I'm really excited to read this book. I think it sounds really great, but heart-wrenching yet hopeful romance, okay? So Jen Reads Romance did a review on this book and gave it 1 star. And she got an arc, went in expecting a romance, like you do, because literally says romance in the blurb. It is from Berkeley. This book looks like romance. And it doesn't have an HEA or HFN. So no happily ever after, no happy for now. None to be seen. And this caused a stir on Goodreads that I just would like to talk about and remind everyone the genre definition of romance is that it must include a happily ever after or happy for now. That means the couple is happy together at the end of the book in some capacity. Not together at the end of the book. Not parting on good terms, together at the end of the book. This is just a fact of the genre. This would be like me marching into a book in the science fiction genre and saying, this is science fiction, but there is no science fiction elements, like no tech stuff. It's gonna be this, that, the other, and you going, that's fantasy, and me going, no, you're wrong. It's science fiction. Now, we can have crossover. I'm not saying you can't have crossover, but this really truly seems like a book that should have been marketed as women's fiction and not as romance. You're not gonna read a historical fiction that's set in the year 2016. Like, it's just a genre definition. By definition, currently, that is not going to be in the story. It's not going to be in that genre, and that's okay. Like, genre definitions exist for a reason. They exist to give us the ability to pick up a book and know that it's going to be in the confines of a certain setting, okay? But anyways, poor Jen Reads Romance over here had a hell of a week, I don't know, in which people were like mad because she gave a book 1 star. People were mad because she said it's not a romance. Some white lady decided to tell her that she watches Korean dramas and thus is the arbiter of this being appropriate for having Korean drama themes in it. Okay, all K-dramas are not romance either. Like, there are non-romance K-dramas, like that's a thing. But yeah, I encourage you to go check out this thread on Goodreads. It is wild. It is a wild ride. I don't recommend you interact, but check it out. It's a wild ride. It also led to some interesting polls and conversations on Twitter around the fact that, like, romance has a genre definition, even if we're not going to go by the RWA, which we all know is like suspicious at the best of days right now. And it's still like we all pick up romances expecting to know at the end that they're going to be together. Yeah. I wanted to share this because for one, I just didn't want anyone in our community to pick this book up expecting romance. And then 2, I just feel like Berkeley, what are you doing? What is going on at Berkeley that they keep like mismarketing books and doing some weird stuff? Because this has become a thing there, I swear. So yeah, just remember the genre definition of romance before you call things romance. It's really not a hard ask. The next one is content warnings. So there was a big hullabaloo on Twitter in the last month around content warnings. Sylvia Moreno Garcia was talking about them. She said some not nice things about Bookstagram stuff, but her context was more around the weaponization of content warnings, which I do think I've seen some of around like romance before with sex and things. And some other people saying like, you know, I don't think we should content warning sex. And then somebody said that's acephobic. I personally don't content warning sex. And I think that if you're coming to romance, I would love for somebody who is asexual to let me know how you feel about this, what your mindset is if you read romance. I would think that if you are sex repulsed, which is totally valid and fine, that if you're going to pick up a romance, you're going to be looking for closed door and low heat, not content warning on page sex. Because I personally, at least, like, I could never content warning sex because I feel like my barometer for spiciness is way different than everybody else's. As in, mine might be broken just a little bit. I also don't always notice how steamy or not steamy the sex is in a book, and sometimes I walk out of a book and I don't even remember if they boned. So that's me in a nutshell. It just depends. So I think the entire like root of this conversation really comes down to the evolution of wording on how we say things are in a book. So like, I love Chase Verity. She puts content notes in the beginning of all her books, and she notes if there's on-page sex in her books. I think she probably has them on her website too. I know Katie Robert just uploaded content notes, warnings, and tags like fanfiction has for a bunch of her books on her website, which is really cool as well. And I think at the end of the day, like, a lot of people just really wish romance somehow had tags like fanfiction does, which I don't disagree with. I think that would be wonderful, but I do think that's a lot of labor for anyone to like do. I try my best to tag like on Goodreads a bunch of shelves for what tropes are in a book and all that, but I don't go into like explicit detail. I content warning stuff that like sometimes I think we would think is a default if it's a dark romance, like murder on page and stuff, but I do that because I don't want people to like pick up a book I recommend to be harmed, which I think any author and reviewer, reader in general, when you're wrecking books, feels this way. Like, we don't want to hurt anybody. So I just think there's like it's like a miscommunication point happening in the content warning discussion, where the word content warning and trigger warning have, like, you know, trigger warning morphed into content warning, and now people are saying they kind of want content notes versus content warnings, because a warning sounds like you're saying it's bad, not bad, but like harmful almost. Kind of like I warn about fat phobia in books and things like that that could possibly be triggering, or eating disorder stuff. I think that's the part, like, you're thinking like more bad. And then I also just, I think we have to be careful when we tag things for these items, because the way in which people will literally like warp a book by an author of colors, content warnings, to push it down in the algorithm or whatever, and to like overemphasize warning people. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, I think content warnings at the end of the day are important, as are content notes. I think the dream is tags to happen, but I don't feel like as a community we're ever going to see tags like fanfiction has on books. Not because we don't want them, but because I just don't see traditional publishing ever adapting to it. As it is, you already have to either rely on reviewers or an author putting it on their website to give content warnings. Yeah, I just get a little iffy on content warning sex. I'm not anti it, I just don't do it already, and I don't know the use. I usually use like closed door, open door situation more than anything to let people know. I don't read a lot of closed door romance. But as always, I will say this: if you're on my channel and you see me rec a book and you have questions, feel free to hit me up. I'm happy to try and answer any questions about it or give any clarity on the content warnings for that book. But yeah, I think we are just gonna see a shift now from content warning to content notes, because kind of like how trigger warnings got shifted because it was kind of like used as against people. I think I don't think content warnings are being used against people, but I think we're just gonna see like a little shift to make the wording a little less like weird. Now the fun one, the one I don't want to talk about, but we gotta talk about, and that is about Casey McQuiston's One Last Stop. So there is, first of all, earlier this month, there was some comments on racism in the book that was really awkward and weird. I will throw up the tweet about it here. Casey didn't like really apologize completely. It's a little messy. I do still want to read this book. But the part I really want to talk about is this TikToker who decided to post a video that has now been taken down, but I do have it for you, and talk about why she's DNFing One Last Stop, but why she loved Red, White, and Royal Blue. All right, I'm gonna play that video for you.
Okay, this is a video I never thought I would be making. I am DNFing One Last Stop temporarily. Let me explain. Okay, so I, like everyone else on BookTok, loved this book so much. So automatically I thought I would like this book. I was sadly mistaken. I think the biggest reason why I'm not a fan of One Last Stop is because they're lesbians. I loved how cute and sweet and quirky Red, White, and Royal Blue was. And yes, they were gay. I didn't mind that. But I was attracted to them. I'm not getting it. Also, quite honestly, Red, White, and Royal Blue was more along the lines of, it was exciting because it wasn't your regular, like, story, because it was the first son of the Prince of Wales, right? So it's not a regular person's life. But unfortunately this, you're following August during her day-to-day life, and honestly, it's boring. I'm bored. I mean, yeah, I got to the spicy scene, but I'm trying to realize what you guys are talking about when you said that Red, White, and Royal Blue was fade to black, because there's really not much spice. I hadn't really noticed that before, and I've also branched out a little bit since then.
Love how the creator just deleted the video and blocked me when I said something.
This is a big issue in the romance community. It is something I've talked about before, how I don't read a lot of romance because I don't like reading straight white women writing romance. I don't like reading, I have a couple authors I do like and I do read. I want to read KJ Charles. I haven't read her yet. And I do like Cat Sebastian. I'm not gonna lie to you, I do. But I don't see enough attention paid to male authors writing it's just not encouraged, it's not promoted, it's not enjoyed in the same way. You know, instead we sit here and we fetishize a gay relationship, but then also at the same turn will shame a book for having a bisexual hero, because that's just not realistic. But you know, that same person would probably read these romances with like kind of harmful tropes like gay for you and stuff like that. Again, I'm not saying you can't enjoy these things, you can. You just have to recognize the layers in this conversation that are much deeper than, well, I read but I won't touch lesbians because it's not as quirky, it's too realistic, I'm not attracted to them. It's just gross. Like, it is straight up just gross. That video is disgusting. I am mortified that she really thought this was okay to put on the internet and to say out loud. I am mortified at the sheer volume of lesbian phobia I have seen from that. Like, I don't understand. To say that it's too realistic, basically because they're lesbians, to say that it's less quirky and cute, you're not attracted to them, like, it's just weird. It's very, very weird to me. And I see this throughout the romance community. This is not me like saying don't read these books. I'm saying you need to like do some self-reflection, right? But you know, Jack Carbon has this series of tweets, and I'm gonna throw them up right here for you to read. And he talks about how publishers choose to pay white women more money to write these books rather than paying a gay man who writes romance to write these books. There's a lot of fear about writing that story in your romances because, you know, you're not a white woman, so you're not as accepted to write those stories. And this is not okay. Like, I still need to read The Hideaway Inn, but I always think we need to make sure we mix in authors with that representation into our reading versus reading only straight white women writing this type of love story. Because again, I feel like I say this every month, we read romance because we love seeing people fall in love. It shouldn't be just for the spice or the... And I just think, like, we as a community need to just make a little bit of effort on this part and read those books that are not the same straight white ladies. And yeah, it's really rough and I hate it. This TikTok really upset me. Personally, I was very offended as someone who identifies as queer and is not straight. I just can't imagine telling me I'm gross because you don't find, like, yeah, no, absolutely not. I wish I was surprised, but I'm not. I just can't believe somebody said the inside part out loud. In Pride Month, of all things. Like, during Pride Month, of all things, you said the inside part out loud. Anyways, those are the big news points for this month's Romancelandia Monthly. I wanted to let you know that in July, when they announced the winners for the RWA Vivian Awards, I'm gonna schedule a live show and invite some friends to join me, and we're going to react to who wins. So be on the lookout for that to pop up soon, hopefully. I need to check the date. Yeah. So on July 31st, the Vivians will be announced, and I will be having a live show with some friends where we hopefully have a little drinky drink and talk through the winners as they're announced, and then do like a little after show to talk about who won. So be on the lookout for that to be. All right, if you made it this far, give me a rainbow because it's almost the end of Pride Month, unfortunately, but that's fine. And give me that rainbow emoji. And if you want links to anything I talked about, there should be links in that description box, as well as links to be my friend anywhere on the internet if you want to do that as well. I will talk to y'all in just a few days. Bye.
About to see the world in action, what we can be.